we survive at the expense of other people. We ought to be growing. And there isn't any God except one you want to define. There is no evidence whatsoever for anything supernatural. None. There is just a belief and a need to be taken care of. And so you posit somebody to take care of you. He made me, he'll look after me. And that's still the attitude of modern people. There's no one thing that's God. There's nobody in control and in charge. There's absolutely no evidence whatsoever for such a being in the world. And yet people are still holding it. Moses went up on a mountain to get nearer to God. And we still don't understand it. And it's so cute and sweet and nice, but it was in that time it was getting closer to God on top of the mountain, because God didn't operate down here. He was up there. And he went up there to get the rules, and he knew what he was doing. He got the rules and brought them down and said, these are from God, they're not from me. And all three religions have done that. The word comes from God. It's not a human word. If it's a human word, you put it up for grabs, and people got to argue about it and fight about it and question it. But they couldn't afford the questioning. I'm not sure that we can afford it now. We're afraid to question in 2002. There's more and more escape cultists than there have been in my lifetime. Mystics and on the spiritual realm and something beyond this and outside. Why? Because we're in a troubled time and we need help. You say, do you believe in God? And they mean, do you believe in my God? But they're assuming that that traditional old-fashioned God is the only way to think of him. But God is a concept, and the word is just a word. And while people don't quite understand how to move out of their traditional supernaturalism, they know that it isn't working anymore. It isn't so. We're afraid. We're frightened. And that's why there's a great revival of religion on the superficial level that it is, Pentecostals and all that junk. People waving their arms and dancing around in the aisles. It's not speaking to the modern man. It's not speaking in terms of modern knowledge. It's a medieval institution. Who could believe intellectually today in the kind of God that gets preached? The kind of God that runs things and orders things and has control and chooses me to live and you to die and one child to be and another child to lose his life and tragedies to happen if he's in charge. He's a pretty damn stupid, ineffectual God, isn't he? And if you feel any single part of nature, no matter how small and insignificant, an ant, a bee, a leaf, a roach, anything, you can move on from that to the whole of creation. Not just this earth as we now know, to reach out into impossible to understand magnitudes like billions of miles. But there's so much nastiness, so much ugliness, so much threat to our individual existence that we begin to depend more on our laws than on our goodwill and order. You can't be a conservative without an intelligent conservative without being liberal. And if you're liberal, you're going to be a conservative in many ways. He's not throwing away what he's fought hard to gain and the processes that we've made, the advances we've made, and the level we've arrived at. He doesn't throw that away. He wants to preserve it while he's growing into something new. That the best truth is only the most probable, and it can change. No scientist ever says that's the final word. Animals don't strive to be more than they are. They're what they are, and they just carry on that level. The human being, he knows what he was, and he knows how he came to be where he is, and he knows that there's things that are in the future that he can reach and work for. That's the wonderful quality of religion, is to be working for something more, something new, and while preserving your status as a human being. Well, we're selfish animals. You have to go back to the original Christian understanding. We're born in sin. It's quite true. We're born as animals. That's the same thing. And as an animal, we fight for our survival. And we'll feed on anything to survive. We'll do anything to survive. And we do eat one another. All animals, the whole creation is one feeding on another. And then we have to find our freedom in that. And it's extremely difficult to be loving and tender and kind, because you'll be taken advantage of and you'll be abused. And you know that you're made to live on the deaths of others. And you have to learn how to handle that in a way that's creative and not destructive, or in a way that's affectionate and warm. You have to learn how to live with each other and get along. And that's such a huge, huge task. And nobody can do it alone. You have to have other people with you. And that's the religious community. The religion is a simple case of poor, helpless creatures, men and women, looking for a papa, looking for somebody to look after them, and trying to find some reason for their being here, and they find the idea of somebody, a father who created them, who made them, and who wants them. They're not just helpless here. Somebody made them, and they can go to him for help and security and comfort. And that's how the religion began. And that's what their tribal god was, somebody who took care of them against others. You know, there were all kinds of tribal gods, and you had your own god, your own father, and your own rules of behavior so that you could make it. Ways to help you be decent, so that you could be honest and tender and kindly with one another, not abusive and hurtful. That's what religion is designed for, to help poor, lonely, awestruck, incapable people get along. And it's still needed for that purpose. No matter how bright you are, you need a religious group to help you make it. But you do need a society of people who are concerned, people who care, people who are looking, people who are loving, to support you and to encourage you, and yes, to aggravate you into further growth. Prayer is the worst word because you cannot separate it from somebody listening and acting in response. The most ridiculous notion, and to think that it's so prevalent in our society and world, the ridiculousness of asking somebody to do something from outside. Oh. Why, that emotional need of somebody to look after me almost never departs from the human being. Well, you grow up with it. Your life is totally dependent on the mother and family you have in the society, so that you know you need help. And we haven't yet got around to accepting and acknowledging the obvious, that there is no help out there. You never can get away from the darkness of the world and the evil. You have to face it and recognize it, and your quality as a religious person depends upon how much you can absorb of that and how much you can deal with it and how much you can sustain your own soul in the process. Because that's what you have to preserve, is your soul, your own soul. But we give the name Christianity to our needs and to our ideals, and they give Islam the name for their coordination, organization, and desire for justice and equity. So they're just two names, but they're passionate names. They're emotional names that create passion and emotion just by mentioning them or being together in a temple and so on. See, that's where emotion plays the part. Intellectually, nobody would ever indulge in war. Intellectually, it's stupid. And our invasion of these countries simply rallies the people on the street, not the guys that rule the place, people on the street. It rallies them to fight against us because we are the Western enemy, and we're not really West. We're invading and dominating their countries. And their way of uniting is under the flag of Islam. And ours, we make a point of Christianity being our Western religion. And it's the West versus the East, and I'm saying it is the West versus the East, but it will be known as a Christian-Muslim world, Christian-Muslim conflict, because we're fighting them.